I'll never forget the night my world came crashing down around me. It was supposed to be an ordinary evening, a lazy Friday that had slipped into the weekend with all the excitement of a sedated sloth. My partner, Alex, and I were hosting a dinner party for some friends, trying out this new recipe we'd found online, a spicy stir-fry that promised to knock our socks off. The kitchen was abuzz with the sound of sizzling meat and laughter, while outside, the fireflies danced like tiny lanterns in the gathering dusk. As I was expertly plating up the final dish, Alex suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream, followed by an incoherent string of curse words that had me on my toes. It turned out our neighbor's dog had managed to get its head stuck in the kitchen window, and it was now flailing about like a possessed beast, while the poor animal itself lay motionless on the floor. Our friends were screaming and running for cover, but I stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. That's when Alex took charge, rushing over to the dog and trying to coax it into submission with soothing words and treats. The situation was chaotic, but in that moment, something clicked between us, a spark of adrenaline-fueled intimacy that left us both panting and locked in a gaze that spoke volumes without needing words. It was as if our shared panic had momentarily stripped away all pretenses, revealing the raw, unvarnished emotions that lay beneath. The dog's owner eventually arrived to take custody of their distressed pet, leaving Alex and me standing amidst the mess, hands still touching each other's arms as if holding on for dear life. I couldn't help but notice the way his eyes sparkled with a mixture of fear and attraction in the fading light, a look that made my heart skip a beat and left me wondering if this chance encounter might just be the wake-up call our relationship needed. As we stood there, wrapped in an unspoken understanding, something strange happened. The world around us seemed to slow down, and for one fleeting moment, it was just us two suspended in a bubble of uncertainty and possibility. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring us face to face with our own desires, our own fears, and our deepest longing. And in that instant, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. As we watched the dog's owner drive away, a sense of awkwardness settled over us like a damp blanket. We exchanged a tentative glance, both of us aware that our lives had been irrevocably altered in that one charged moment. Alex broke the silence, his voice low and husky as he reached out to brush a strand of hair from my face. It was a gentle gesture, but one that sent shivers down my spine. We stood there for what felt like an eternity, our bodies inches apart, as if drawn together by some unseen force. The dinner party's guests began to trickle back into the house, their chatter and laughter a distant hum in the background as we stood frozen, lost in our own little world. It was then that I became aware of Alex's hand on my waist, his fingers digging gently into the fabric of my jeans, as if savoring every inch of skin beneath. The touch sent a jolt of electricity through me, leaving me breathless and yearning for more. We were two people adrift in a sea of uncertainty, yet somehow, in that instant, we had found each other, or at least we'd found ourselves. As the evening wore on, our conversation turned from small talk to something far more intimate. We spoke of our deepest desires, our darkest fears, and our most fervent dreams. The words flowed like a river, unbridled and unapologetic, as if we were both trying to make up for lost time. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once, this newfound vulnerability that had taken hold of us like a virus. We laughed and cried and whispered secrets in the dead of night, our connection growing stronger with every passing moment. And yet, amidst all this emotional chaos, there were moments when I caught myself wondering what if Alex was just being kind to me, playing on my sympathies for the sake of a good story? What if he didn't truly feel the same way? The doubts crept in like shadows, threatening to extinguish the flame that had flickered to life between us. But every time I raised my head to meet his gaze, those doubts would melt away, replaced by an unshakable sense that we were two souls meant to collide. As the night drew to a close and our friends began to say their goodbyes, Alex turned to me with a look that made my heart skip a beat. It was a look of fierce longing, of desperate need, a look that said he wanted more than just a friendship or a casual encounter. He wanted everything, and I knew in that instant that I wanted it too. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions, a kaleidoscope of feelings that left me breathless and bewildered. Alex and I barely saw each other, our interactions reduced to fleeting glances and hushed whispers in the hallway. But even as we kept our distance, the connection between us grew stronger, like a slow-burning fire that refused to be extinguished. We'd steal away to hidden corners of the house, our bodies pressed together as if seeking shelter from the world outside. It was during one of these stolen moments that Alex revealed to me a secret he'd kept hidden for years, a secret that had been eating away at him like a slow-moving cancer. He spoke of his own struggles, of the weight he'd carried for so long, and I listened with rapt attention, my heart pounding in time with his. The words poured out of him like a confession, a raw and honest admission that left me feeling both shaken and exhilarated. As we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, arms, I felt a sense of freedom I'd never known before. It was as if the very act of being vulnerable had set us free to be ourselves, free to love without fear or hesitation. And yet, despite this newfound sense of liberation, there were moments when the doubts crept back in, like a thief in the night. What if our connection was just a phase? What if we weren't compatible in the long run? But Alex's words kept echoing in my mind, words that had the power to disarm even the most skeptical of hearts. "I've been waiting for you," he'd said, his eyes burning with an intensity that left me breathless. "I've been searching for you my whole life." The promise in those words was like a key turning in a lock. It unlocked something deep within me, something that knew deep down that this was the real deal. And so, despite the trepidation that still lurked in the shadows, I took a step forward into the unknown. I reached out and brushed a strand of hair from Alex's face, my fingers grazing his skin like a gentle lover's touch. The spark that flew between us was like a miniature explosion. It shattered the air around us, leaving only the two of us suspended in a world of our own creation. As we stood there, frozen in time, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. We'd crossed a threshold, one that led to a place where love and desire blurred into something messy, beautiful, and utterly sublime. And I was ready to follow Alex into the unknown, no matter where it might lead us. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months as we navigated this new reality together. Our love became a force of nature, unstoppable and unrelenting in its power. We'd spend hours lost in each other's eyes, our bodies entwined like the branches of two twisted trees. The world outside receded, and all that was left was us, two souls adrift in a sea of uncertainty. But with every step forward came a new challenge, a new obstacle to overcome. The doubts that had once threatened to tear us apart now resurfaced, like waves crashing against the shore. What if we were too far gone? What if our love was just a product of hormones and adrenaline? I remembered the words Alex had spoken to me on that first night, words that had set my heart racing and my soul soaring. "I've been waiting for you," he'd said, his eyes burning with an intensity that left me breathless. I knew then that our love was something special, something that transcended the mundane and the ordinary. As we navigated these uncharted waters, I began to realize just how much I'd been running from. I'd spent years hiding behind masks of confidence and control, afraid to let anyone in or be vulnerable. But with Alex by my side, I felt like I could face anything, like I was finally home. The memories came flooding back, like a tidal wave crashing against the shore. Memories of childhood laughter, of first loves and broken hearts. Memories of all the times I'd been afraid to take a chance, to reach out and touch someone's hand. But most of all, I remembered the moment when Alex had looked at me, when he'd seen past the facade and into the heart of me. It was like he'd stripped away the layers of protection and armor, leaving only the vulnerable, raw, and exposed parts of me on display. And in that moment, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. I knew that I'd found my home, my safe haven, my partner in every sense of the word. And with Alex by my side, I felt like I could conquer anything, like we were invincible, like nothing could ever break us apart. We were two souls on a journey, entwined together like the threads of a tapestry. We'd weave our lives together, stitch by stitch, until we created something beautiful and strong, something that would last long after the doubts and fears had faded away. As the months went by, our love continued to grow, like a garden nurtured by the warmth of the sun and the gentle rains of spring. We explored new places together, trying new foods, visiting new cities, and experiencing new cultures. Our laughter echoed through the streets, our smiles illuminated the faces of those around us. But with every step forward, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. What if Alex's past came back to haunt him? What if his secrets were exposed and our love was destroyed? I tried to push the thoughts away, focusing on the present moment, on the love that we shared. We'd talk about our dreams, our aspirations, our fears, and our doubts. We'd listen to each other's hearts, to the whispers of our soul. One night, as we sat together on the beach, watching the stars twinkle above us, Alex took my hand in his. "I have something to tell you," he said, his voice low and serious. "Something that's been weighing on my mind for a long time." My heart skipped a beat as I looked into his eyes, searching for answers. What could it be? Would our love be strong enough to overcome whatever lay ahead? Alex took a deep breath before speaking, his words spilling out like a confession. "I have a child," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "A daughter, born when I was just 19 years old." My world came crashing down around me, the shock and surprise threatening to overwhelm me. A child? How could this be? We'd never discussed anything like this before. But as I looked into Alex's eyes, I saw something there that gave me hope. I saw a love that went beyond our own hearts, a love that spanned generations and time. "What about her?" I asked, my voice shaking with emotion. Alex smiled, his eyes shining with tears. "I'll tell you everything," he said. "But first, can you just hold my hand? Can you just give me your trust?" I nodded, feeling a sense of surrender wash over me. I took his hand hand in mine, holding it tight as we sat there on the beach, watching the stars twinkle above us. And in that moment, I knew that our love was strong enough to overcome anything, even the secrets and surprises that life had in store for us.